Hello, Pearl Jam community. Welcome to the Wishlist Foundation's interview series, Candle of Thought, where we illuminate the people, causes, and music that are important to the Pearl Jam community. I am your host, Chrissy Ferguson. Today, I'm going to introduce you to the people who volunteered to organize the Sacramento, Las Vegas, and Los Angeles Wishlist pre-parties during Leg 1 of Pearl Jam's Dark Matter Tour. Our chat today will give you a whole new appreciation for the work that goes into each Wishlist pre-party, and it may even get you excited to think about volunteering for the upcoming Wishlist pre-parties for Leg 3 of the Dark Matter Tour. So welcome, Andrea, Colin, and Adriana. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I want to start by talking with each of you about Pearl Jam. How did do you all remember the exact moment? Because I remember my moment in time when I really fell in love with the band, and then when I started touring and seeing more and more concerts. So do each of you have a story of when, how old were you when you started listening to Pearl Jam and then started seeing them perform? How about we start with Colin?
I remember it really well. I was sort of late to the party. I remember when 10 came out, I guess I was probably 25 or 26, and I was not, I guess, a huge fan of it when it came out. I remember it coming out and enjoying it, but I was just not a huge Pearl Jam fan, so to speak. But I remember a bunch of my friends were all into it, and they were going to go see them in Charlotte in '96, which was just they were playing at Memorial Stadium. And I went, and this was right after, I think it was Versus had come out. And or maybe it was Vitology. I can't remember which one it was. But and just blew me away. And I was hooked. And so it was, I guess, 5 years after 10 had come out and everything. And it was an amazing show, huge crowd. It was when they were in that battle with Ticketmaster. And so we had to go through this whole thing about going to a record store to pick up the tickets. And I lived in Greensboro at the time, so I remember driving down to Charlotte to get in line for tickets. And it was just a huge mess. But I remember getting the tickets and remember driving down the night before, and we had this huge tailgate and just being absolutely blown away. And the very next day, I went and bought the 10 CD and listening to it front and back. I was like, how did I miss this? And from that point on, it was just it was love. And I've just been a huge fan ever since. So that was the moment that night, and just myself and 20,000 of my favorite friends. So it was awesome. It really was. That was the moment.
That's great. And what about you, Andrea? Do you remember?
I started to listen to the band in '93 with some friends from high school. Around '94, '95, I had a friend who was really into Pearl Jam, and really I listened to the albums more and more, and we would sing them together. And then my first concert was June 1994 at Golden Gate Park, where they played with Neil Young. It was about Mirrorball time, I think. And Eddie walked off the stage because he was ill, and Neil Young played for the next 2 or 3 hours. But I still have very fond memories of that. And then ever since then, I've been hooked. I've seen them maybe, I want to say it's 8 times now in a bunch of different states. And every time I listen to a CD or an album, even the older ones, I hear new things that have meaning to me now that maybe didn't have meaning to me then when they came out. And it's kind of really exciting to be a fan because it's just constantly evolving. And I really love that.
Yeah, it does. I agree with you about their lyrics, and, whatever stage of life you're in, those songs can affect you in different ways for sure.
Absolutely.
And What about you, Adriana? What's your Pearl Jam story?
So for me, I think being a little bit younger skewing, I got into Pearl Jam with my mother. My mother's an actual Gen Xer, so like a lot of ways we bonded was like through sharing music. So she, I think 10 came out when she was in high school, so she had really fond memories of the album. She played it a lot, so we would listen to it together and really enjoy it. And so I fell in love with the band, I think probably in my early teens, like my high school, 14, 15. So I've been a fan of them for a while, but I didn't actually get to start going to concerts until Ohana 2021, because I grew up in North Carolina. I went to college, but they don't come out there very often, at least, during my like later years. But yeah, so Ohana 2021 was my first actual time seeing them, which is a little late, but it was a great experience. And it was so fun to be able to see them for the first time and meet a bunch of other fans for the first time, instead of, hanging out on the internet all the time and just like getting serious, like FOMO from not seeing the guys. But it's been great. So that's my story.
Ohana's a pretty amazing place to see them. That's the only ticket I have right now coming up. So I can't wait to get back there.
Oh yeah, I'll be going this year.
So, oh, good. All right. So we'll meet in person. So obviously each of you are very busy. And I just can't imagine how much work it is, just being on the outskirts and watching your communication with everyone, how much planning it took to organize the pre-parties that you all did. How did you all want to become involved in such a big project? Is it from going to previous Wishlist parties? I'd love to know how you all decided to take on this role. Anyone can start.
Yeah. So back in 2018, I was lucky enough to go to the home shows out in Seattle, and they had a big wish list party out there, and I remember going to that one, and I just remember thinking if I ever get a chance to volunteer and help out at one of those, I was going to do that, and that's kind of what led me to do the one out in Las Vegas. I signed up to volunteer for the shows in Las Vegas on this tour. And I was talking to one of the organizers. Well, actually, she was trying to get people to volunteer and organize. And I noticed they were not getting anybody to organize. And I was like, shoot, I'm just going to go ahead and put my name out there. And within a day, Jenny, one of the people at Wishlist, called me. She's like, do you really want to do this? She said, I know you're in North Carolina. And I said, well, look, I'm going to the shows anyway. I was like, what the hell? Let's just go ahead and give it a shot. And she said, well, are you going to both shows? And I said, no. I said, I'm just going to the Thursday show. And so I was able to organize the Thursday show. I ended up doing both the pre-parties, but I ended up going to the Saturday night show as well because somebody had an extra ticket. So I was like, man, this is awesome.
Wow.
So it was that's how I kind of got involved with it, just going to the wish list party out in Seattle in 2018.
And I didn't realize until we were just speaking recently, you being in North Carolina, that you were not local. So that's a really big deal to take on.
It was. I did a lot of shopping and brought a lot of stuff in my. I brought 2 suitcases. One was my clothes, and the other was all my party stuff. It was kind of funny, but I did a lot of stuff there. I was amazed at how many people that volunteered for the pre-parties. Had done several before, and they were amazing. Laura with Wishlist, DeMartini, she was a huge help, and she brought some other veterans of pre-parties as well. So they were awesome to work with. It was a lot of fun. It was.
Well, thank you so much for doing that. That's great.
Yeah.
And Andrea, how about you? How did you decide to get involved?
I came across a Facebook post that was asking for event planners and volunteers for the Sacramento show. And I had purchased a ticket to the Sacramento show for my birthday. And I thought, oh, what the heck? I'm a professional event planner by trade. And I thought, well, gosh, if I can be an event planner for a Pearl Jam show, like that's like a dream that I didn't even know I had come true. So yeah, it was really fun. The whole experience was wonderful. And so that's how I came to be the Sacramento one. Yeah.
That's great. And Adriana, how'd you take that on?
I also saw a social media post, and I'd heard, I met some Wishlist people at the Rockford show last year in Seattle. So I'm actually based in Seattle, and I moved from LA last year, so I haven't been out here long. So like I said, I met some people from Wishlist at the Rockford show and the Brad signing during that weekend, and I had heard, and I was like, oh, that sounds awesome. And then when I saw the call, I was like, oh, I guess I'll try that out. Because I had signed up to volunteer for Seattle, and I knew I was going to go to LA because I have friends and family still out there. So then I was asked to help organize Los Angeles, and I was like, okay, I'll take it on. Like, I've worked a lot in nonprofits over the years and helped like film festivals, big events. So I was like, I think I can try that and take that on. It'll be a fun project to do and a good cause. So I thought that would be great.
Great. Well, one of the benefits of being a pre-party organizer is choosing the beneficiary. So I'd love to know if, and especially if you're out of town, maybe it wasn't a local beneficiary, or maybe it was, but I'd love to know how you chose your beneficiary and what it means to you. So I know we had lap cats. Was that you, Andrea?
Yes, that was for the Sacramento show. Yes.
Yeah. So do you have a personal connection to that organization?
I don't actually. That was one of the more difficult things that I found, was finding a beneficiary, because I was out of town. But I did some research, and I am a huge cat lover. And Lap Cats is an organization that places a priority on rehousing senior and not sick, but like say 3-legged cats, or cats that aren't wanted, quote unquote. And when I read their mission, that just made me like, that's got to be it. That's got to be the one. So, yeah.
That's great. Yeah. And 3 Square was what you chose, Colin, right?
It is. So I'm actually in the food business. So I work for a company that we manufacture food products. And so we sell a lot to restaurants and sports stadiums and that type of thing. So we have distribution out in Las Vegas. And 3 Square is, they do a lot of feeding the hungry, but they also do a lot for a lot of the culinary workers in Las Vegas, and especially for folks that are out of work. And so they help, those types of families that maybe have unemployed workers that maybe have gotten laid off, or I know there was a huge hotel that just closed down out there. So they really work with a lot of the food service people out there. So they're kind of near and dear to my heart, because they obviously are folks that we work with on a direct basis. So that was one of the reasons why I chose 3 Square. They do such a good job. They're one of the largest providers of feeding the hungry and helping the homeless and that type of thing in Southern Nevada, and especially in Las Vegas. So that's why I chose those guys. They're a great organization.
That's great. And Adriana, you had 2 beneficiaries, LA Food Bank and also Femtasia, is it?
Yes, Femtasia.
Can you tell us a little bit about each beneficiary?
So for Femtasia, I've worked with them in the past. I've known the founders for about 7 years now. And so Femtasia Fest is an experimental film festival that aims to showcase women's projects. And so I thought it was a good idea to benefit, because they're a small organization. They've been doing this for years. They've done showcases, not just in LA, but San Diego, Arizona, I think even Berlin. And they also do stuff like, we had like a drive called Books for Babes years ago, and also donating feminine products for women in in the LA area. So I thought that would be a great organization. And also I'm a former film critic, so I've always had ties with the film community and like have a passion for uplifting creatives in that space. So I thought it would be great to work with them again. And they're the sweetest people, Etta and David, who lead the organization. So they were very excited, easy to work with, in getting all the things we needed. So that was it. And for the LA Food Bank, that was our joint beneficiary, who was also picked by Brent, who is the owner of Common Space for our venue. So, of course, the LA Food Bank helps distribute food to the underprivileged community in LA, which is very important, especially right now. Like, it's very rough out there. So I thought that was that was sorry, my roots are twisted. I'm like still waking up, but yeah, it was a good like co-beneficiary to have.
All of those are great organizations. And it's so nice that at these wish list pre-parties, all of the funds raised, and I think everyone who comes to the pre-parties understands that, but all of the funds raised go directly toward the beneficiaries that the pre-party organizer chooses, as well as 50% goes to Pearl Jam's Vitology Foundation and the organizations that they support. So we really appreciate everybody who comes out to these wish list pre-parties, whether you're buying raffle tickets or you're bidding on the Pearl Jam signed poster. Everything that you're helping with at these pre-parties to donate to helps these organizations that you just heard about, as well as many others. So I want to conclude with saying that is a huge perk, I think, being able to pick your own, the beneficiary of your choice and what's near and dear to your heart. But if you had to give advice to others, because we are always looking for volunteers and we're always looking for pre-party organizers, if you had to give advice to others to start volunteering for leg 3 of the Dark Matter Tour, what would you say to others about what your experience was like, or how this meant, what this meant to you to be a part of the Wishlist Foundation as you organized the pre-parties? So anybody can start.
I would say I feel closer to the Pearl Jam family than I ever have. I mean, I always just went to concerts and it was just me and buddies, or my wife and I would go. I feel like I've got true friends out there in the Pearl Jam family now. I mean, I've got people on Facebook now that I interact with, and I text with some of these folks. So I feel like I've got this huge friend group now within the Pearl Jam family, which is really cool. Just meeting folks that have helped volunteer at the 2 parties that I did. The advice that I would tell people is just do it. It is so much fun. You get to meet a lot of Pearl Jam fans and that come to those parties, and it's just it's a great feeling too, knowing you're giving back to some of these nonprofit organizations that are helping the local communities too, and you just get to interact with the fans is the best part about it.
I would.
How about you, Andrea?
I'm sorry. I would also say, yes, just do it. If you're even thinking about doing it, you should absolutely do it. I'm so glad that I found the Wishlist Foundation and that I did this. I've had, because of my organization at the Sacramento show, actually, I have a fun story. One of the volunteers from the Sacramento show had seen one of my posts on one of the Pearl Jam Facebook groups that I was having FOMO for going to the Vegas shows. And she texted me and she said, "Hey, I have an extra ticket." And then I was telling my sister about that. And she's like, "Well, I can book you a room with all these extra points that I have from my hotels from traveling." And I was like, "Are you guys kidding?" And so I drove 10 hours the day of the show, that Saturday. And I drove down there.
I heard about you. I heard about that. That was you.
And it was an amazing experience. I was so tired, but it was an amazing experience. And that would have never happened if I hadn't volunteered to be the event planner. So I'm not saying that's going to happen to everybody, but I do mean that everybody's going to have a really fun time and you'll have an experience that you don't even know might come out of it. Yeah.
Right. That's an incredible story.
Yeah.
Wow. Adriana, how about you?
Well, I guess I would piggyback off of what Colin and Andrea said, but I also would say, like, don't stress out too much, because like there's Laura and Jenny and a lot of the other like seasoned volunteers. We were there because, of course, as a first time organizer, I was really anxious. I was like, what if this doesn't work out? What if this, all these things happen? I'm the kind of person who gets kind of anxious sometimes, but they have your back. So a lot of people were there to help out and make things so much smoother than I thought they were going to go. So I think if you're worried, there's plenty of people who have your back, especially if you're not experienced. And it is a great way to meet other fans if you want to do that. Like I said, I live in Seattle now, so I did the LA shows and then came back a couple days later, did the Seattle shows. And I wasn't initially going to volunteer for the Seattle shows, but I decided, okay, why not? I can go meet some more people and have a good time. So I went to both the Seattle pre-parties, which are like insane, but it was great because I got to meet so many more people, and it was just like I said, amazing experience, and really enhanced that like hometown vibe, and why I just chose to like move out here as well. So I was like, yeah, this is great.
Definitely a shout out to Laura and Jenny for their help. I mean, they are great, and they make it so easy for us to volunteer and organize, for sure. I agree.
I second that. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, they work very, very hard behind the scenes. So I'm glad that you all got a chance to interact with them. And we just appreciate you all so much. I mean, again, if you all had not stepped up to do this, we may not have had a pre-party, who knows? So we just really appreciate your time. We hope that you'll volunteer in the future, at least be stopping by the Wishlist pre-parties when you get to the next show. And Adriana, I guess I'll see you in Ohana. Maybe I'll see some of you at another show down the road.
Hopefully so. Yeah, absolutely.
But thank you again so much for your time, and we'll see you soon, hopefully.
Thank you very much, Chris. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.